Oh, yes, and welcome into the Sportsedge, powered by Sports Handicapper. I'm Dan Leach, the Squatch. So much to get to today. Final Four. Baseball's coming. We got the Valero Texas Open the week before. The Masters talked to Jamie about. Let's bring him in. The Nobleman. We got Sealy McNeely, the Westgate Champ. Seal, how you feeling today? How are the fish doing?
Tired, and we're both tired.
All right, you look great.
We're tired from swimming around the tank all day, and I'm just tired.
Well, you should probably maybe jump in the tank and swim with them. What do you think about that?
I wish I had a tank big enough to jump in.
Someday you will. You just won the Westgate. You should buy
Up in your pool.
Yeah, house size. Sideburns, how you feeling down in beautiful, lovely Costa Rica?
Doing good. Ready for the Final Four?
Yep, it's going to be sick. And JB, the king of golf, the king of English soccer, and the king of making fun of American soccer. By the way, if you're such a big soccer guy, why didn't you go to the game last night at, what's the stadium called? El Stadium de Azateco? I forgot what it's called.
Why didn't I go to the game? Because I'm not Costa Rican, I'm not American. So why would I?
Because you're a soccer
When England comes and plays here, I'll go to the stadium.
Has England ever played in Costa Rica?
No, they're too good for this place.
No, for the love of Christ. All right, we'll get back with you in just a little bit. You and Silly Seal. But Sideburns, let's start with you, my friend. And we've got the Final Four. I can't believe we have the Final Four on Saturday. We're recording here on a Thursday afternoon. And I just want to get your feelings on the tournament itself. We had our first 15 seeds in the Elite Eight. We almost had 0 number 1 seeds for the first time in the modern era in the Final Four. And now you've got Duke and North Carolina playing for the first time ever in the tournament. 100 times they played under in Coach K's tenure. They're up by 1, by the way, 50-49. And you've got Kansas Nova, 2 teams that have won titles in the past. What are just your feelings on the tournament in general? Because every year, Sideburns, we say it's crazy. This might, even though it's settled with some 2s and 1s at the end, and obviously an 8 seed in North Carolina, this might have been the craziest ever, at least one of the craziest ever.
It's one of the craziest, especially in recent memory. I mean, 15 seed making it to the Final 8, first time ever, like you said. And we did really good with the game so far. These matchups they're tight. I don't know how you feel about them, but I was surprised to see Kansas open up as a 3.5-point favorite. Personally, I thought it'd be higher, especially with losing Justin Moore. I think that's really going to hurt Villanova, who's a thin team as it is.
Yeah.
It's a big loss.
Well, I look at both these games, and we'll start with Kansas and Nova, and you mentioned how that opened up 3.5, and now we're basically seeing 4.5s out there. And I wanted to get your take on what kind of money you're seeing coming in. For me, and I don't want to kind of tip my hand on the North Carolina game with Duke yet, but to me, the way this tournament has gone, so many underdogs have won outright, and obviously a ton of underdogs have covered. I'm in this thing called the capture pool, where you just randomly get a team and you have them throughout the tournament. And let's say they're getting 8.5 points against a certain team and they lose, you still capture the other team. I've had North Carolina, I've had to worry about it. They've been an underdog in most of their games, though. So you look at the dogs in this tournament, and Nova, of course, they beat my Wolverines. I know you're really excited about it. And I'll tell you this about Villanova, and I'll see if you agree. They have been slept on. They are extremely talented, as they always are. Jay Wright's a great coach. I mean, you mentioned, obviously, losing one of their best players, but still having Samuel, still having Colin Gillespie, who made all those big shots against Michigan and then in the Elite Eight as well. To me, people, in my bracket contest, I do a bracket contest every year, hundreds of entries. No one picked Villanova to win. I think people are just sleeping on a team that played in a tough Big East with teams like Providence. Xavier's playing the NIT final on Thursday night, and that they are not just good enough to win this game, but they're good enough to win the whole thing. And no one really, they're like obviously not an afterthought, but it's everyone's taking Duke or taking Kansas. Some might be taking North Carolina. No one's taking Villanova. I love them plus 4.5.
They are. You're right. It is. They're treated like an afterthought. Most people look at them as out of the 4, they would look at them as the weakest team. Right. They are very well coached, like you said. They play tremendous defense. Their defense is probably one of the best in the country, next to Houston. And the one thing they can't do, Dan, is they cannot shoot 30% from the field and expect to beat Kansas.
No.
They just can't. And the shooting has been atrocious.
Yes.
I mean, Samuels has really kept them in the games, and they beat Michigan, which is a good team, but they were favored.
And Michigan played terrible that game.
And
terrible.
Yeah, we talked about that game, how ugly it was. And the Houston game was was just as ugly. I mean, it was a horrible game to watch.
Yeah,
Unless you like low
50
scoring
to
defensive
44.
affairs.
How can you
I
have a
mean,
50-44 game in the Elite Eight? It's crazy.
yeah, I know. And Villanova was a 3.5 point underdog there. And they were pretty much in control the whole game.
Yep. Another thing that, in Villanova's cap, too, they're the best free throw shooting team in the country by percentage. How are you seeing the action coming in? I know I was looking at some splits the other day. It looked like about 60+% of the money and bets were on Kansas. I know the total was kind of split as well. What do you see in the last couple of days as far as where the action is? Because I know that obviously Kansas will end up taking more money, but I wonder if it's going to get a little closer with Nova getting the 4.5 now.
I don't think it will. I think it'll continue to. You'll see the public all over Kansas for sure. They're already being bet 2-1. The money that I see, it's going to be Kansas. It's going to be Kansas money coming in, and we're going to be rooting for Villanova.
Well, I made a play at Villanova as soon as I saw it go to 4.5. The other game, Duke in North Carolina. You look at this series, and I mentioned since Coach K has been there his final year, and obviously the script keeps getting written in his final, appearance in the tournament. They've played. This will be the 100th time they've played Duke, North Carolina. They've never played in the tournament. I think that's crazy. I cannot believe they've never, in all the 30+ years that Coach K has been there, has never played North Carolina. And I mentioned I didn't want to tip my hand too much, but I like both the underdogs. I mean, yes, Duke might win this game, but you're getting forward North Carolina. I know there's a little more precipitous money on Duke, both money line and spread compared to Kansas and Villanova. But that being said, this line is kind of stuck there at 4. What are you seeing? And I think that taking forward North Carolina seems to be the not just the smart play, but the only play, because obviously Duke's got a ton of All-Americans and NBA lottery type picks. But North Carolina is beating everyone like a drum. And they've done this throughout the entire tournament. And they just beat North Carolina. They just beat Duke in Coach K's final regular season home game at Cameron by, 16, and dominated the second half.
Yeah, they crushed them in that game. And they've been running over everybody in the tournament. And you kind of knew. I mean, we had North Carolina last weekend against St. Peter's. We figured that was going to be a complete blowout from start to finish, and it was. I mean, St. Peter's was never in the game and really probably didn't belong in the court. I agree. The game's being bet pretty even today, or as of now, it's been pretty even, a little bit more on the underdog, North Carolina. But I would imagine the game's going to just stay where it is. You're not going to see much movement, and I agree. North Carolina seems like the play here.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you got a really good chance. And for me, it's probably Nova. I think you've got a really good chance of at least one of the two dogs winning outright, but I definitely like both the dogs to cover. And listen, these are going to be great games. They won't be like the Houston Nova game, which was like watching paint dry at times, 50-44 in the Elite Eight. I think you're going to see, two very exciting down to the wire type games with a lot of emotion out there in New Orleans. I've been in New Orleans to cover Final Fours before. They put on a great show there. The atmosphere is going to be great in the Superdome or the Mercedes, but whatever it's called now, Mercedes-Benz Lifetime.
Caesars. I think it's called the Caesars Superdome now.
Yeah, Caesars Lifetime Mercedes-Benz drive-through Superdome, Jack in the Box. But it should be a lot of fun, Kevin. I'm excited about Saturday night.
No, me too. I can't wait to watch both games, and that's my plan for Saturday night. Sit around, have a couple of drinks, and watch the games.
We can't make a side bet on Nova because we both like Nova, so we can't
even
do it.
Well, you owe me a round of golf next time you come down. I know that.
All right. I'm going to do double nothing at some point. All right, great stuff.
And I won 50,000 space bucks.
Yeah, that's right. Was it 20,000 space bucks?
50.
That's right. It's a lot of space bucks. It's one space buck for every. It's $20,000 for every one space buck. So I think
that's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
I can retire.
Great job by you. Let's get my man JB. And JB, of course, we're excited about the Masters. But before we get to the Masters and how exciting that weekend or whole week is, we got the Valero Texas Open. And I loved your write-up when you talked about leading into this tournament that it's the week, before the Masters. Now they've done it for several years. And that they're trying to attract a lot of players to get ready for Augusta because it's very similar to Augusta. Explain that concept to people out there.
Yeah, so they changed the course a few years ago. And if you always remember, before Augusta, a while ago, was the Houston Open that they used to play.
Right.
And, it was always wider fairways, the shaven runoffs around the green to try to emulate what goes on at Augusta next week. So, again, they're trying to get the field in, the bigger players into this tournament, try and get them to play. But, of course, you can get them to play but are they really going to be focused on it? I'm not really that heavy on the top of the market this week with McIlroy and DeChambeau's up there. Can't be touching any of those for anything. Matsuyama, defending champion next week. He always needs a run out before he wins. So, and Jordan Spieth as well has not really been Spieth lately, has he? Abraham Answer pulled out late last night. So we're sort of in for the 30, 40 to 1 mark where we started off this week. And one of the first guys that jumped off the page for me was Gary Woodland. Gary Woodland, he's won over in Arizona, he's won California, he's won Nevada. You know, Texas is the only state that's left over there for him to win in. And they've been playing really a lot better than this lately. So he's definitely a contender, I think, in my opinion. Chris Kirk was one of the other guys as well. 2 top 10s in the last 3 years here. He had a miscut of the players, but he was on the wrong side of the draw there, so you can definitely forgive that. He's already won in Texas as well at the Colonial. So Chris Kirk joined the list as well with Woodland. Patton Kizzire was one of the guys who I was really, really interested in. He's got some real solid form right now. I think he had a top 10 last time. But if you look into the one of the fields that I put in there on the spreadsheet was the event before a major. And it kind of just shows you as to who turns up in these events and how they actually do. You know, because there's definitely guys there that play in these events that have got one eye on next week. Are they sharpening the game up for this week? Are they really looking to get into contention? But I think Patton Kizzire, if you have a look at him in the lead up to a major, he's got he's got a third, a ninth, 2 11ths, and a couple of missed cuts. So Patton Kizzire there at 50, 66 to 1 was making up the team as well. I mean, these are the things that you got to kind of have a look at. You've got to kind of look at what's different about this event and how can I find information on that. And this week before a major, it's a pretty big thing. It's a real thing. It's like, you know, are these players, can the guys who aren't in the majors take advantage of the situation with the favorites who have maybe got one eye on next week, and can they play better than what their price reflects? And I think with Kizzire, he's definitely one who can do that.
Yeah, Jamie, I think you make such a great point. And it's the same thought process I had. And a lot of this is because I've learned a lot from you over the years with how great you've been at picking golf winners. You know, it's great to try to attract more players. Obviously, the Masters is a much smaller field than the usual 156 plus at bigger, obviously, the other majors or other tournaments. And to think, and you mentioned Answer withdrawing, but Matsuyama there and Spieth there, and obviously the success Spieth had there last year. It's very tough. And by the way, you know, something that I wanted to mention as well, we have never had a winner of the Masters win the week before. It's never happened. I think it was a couple years ago, pre-pandemic. I'm forgetting who it was, but there was someone that had a chance. Maybe it was Spieth last year that, you know, people thought could do it. It's never happened. So I'm 100% with you where you kind of look, you go through the chart and you look at the guys that are maybe, you know, 10th on, not the top 5 or 10 favorites, and then the better players in the world, because like you said, they're there. It's not like they're not, you know, trying to win. Of course, you're not going to a golf tournament and not trying to win unless you're Dustin Johnson sometimes throughout his career where it looks like he's unfocused. Just thinking about Paulina Gretzky. But you're going there to get ready for the biggest tournament of the year. And if you're one of the top players, if you're a Matsuyama, if you're a Rory McIlroy, yeah, you're going to go out there and try to play your best. But in your mind, you know what Augusta is all about. And a lot of these guys, and some of the guys that, you know, you've identified are going to be playing at Augusta, but most of them are not. And it's a lot to try to get. I mean, think about it if you're doing that yourself, even just an amateur round of golf like you and I play. If you've got a big event coming up in 4 or 5 days and you're just going out there and you still want to win and beat your friend, your mind's going to be on that big event. So I think it's a great thought process for you when you're trying to identify a winner. Not that the top players don't have a chance this week, but the values with the guys like the, you know, Kizzires, with the Gary Woodlands, who did play in the WGC,
Yeah.
and I got to kind of chill and not have to worry about that matchup. You know, the intensity of playing all those rounds in a row if you make it through the bracket. So I think that's very important. That's kind of why you've had so much success, because you're on those kind of, you know, processes and thoughts and things like that. And that's where the money can be won in an event like this, where you're still getting guys at 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 to 1. And that's great value.
Yeah, no, of course. And I mean, just look at the worksheet there and look at how many times Rory McIlroy has played the week before a major. I think he's played once in the last, 7 or 8 events. So He's just there to try and get his game sharp for the Masters. Absolutely no doubt in my mind. And he's going off at 7-1 for this event. Yeah, do you know what? He could win it. Obviously, he's Rory McIlroy, but you know what? I wouldn't be putting any of my money on McIlroy. You couldn't pay me to back him this week. So yeah, it's you've always got to look at something. You know, there's always something in every single tournament where you've got to try and find an edge. I mean, let's face it. You know, if the best player in the field won every single week, there's it just does not happen. There's other things and there's other measurements that you've got to take, and you've got to take it into account. And then it's up to you as to, well, how important is this? I happen to think the week before a major is a pretty big deal in this.
Yep.
You know, to see how guys are. It's anything for an edge. Whatever you think is an edge, and you can and you believe in it, then that's what you got to bet. It's just,
especially when it comes to golf.
Exactly. I mean, there's no point. You know, hey, listen, if not, you'd be betting McIlroy, Rahm, and Johnson every single week.
Right. And by the way,
we just don't do that.
And by the way, you know, just to your point, it's another great point. You know, Corey Connors, for example, and I love Corey Connors, great young Canadian player. He's played 3 events ever in his career before a major. He was the second favorite this week. I mean, yeah. Let's be honest. There's just not value there, and that's why.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I mean, he's in that position because of how he played last week at the match play, but match play and stroke play, completely different things.
Totally different.
I don't even, I mean, you'll see that in my sheets there. I don't even include match play in them. I have no interest in looking at anything from the world match play as far as how guys are playing or anything else like that. I mean, hey, listen, Scotty Scheffler's just gone world number 1. Thoroughly deserves it. You win 3 tournaments in the space of 2 months. You should be world number 1. But you know, and he was so good in the match play last year as well when he lost in the final to Horschel. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting event. I think all of our guys we're a couple of under, 1 under. So we're in a good spot right now. The tournament doesn't get won on a Thursday, but it could definitely get lost. And we're just at the end of the first quarter right now, so we'll see what happens.
Love it. Great stuff as always. The worksheet's out there, and of course, all the great stuff. All his picks at sportshandicapper.com. Jamie, great stuff by you as always. We'll get back with you in a minute. Let's bring in the Westgate Champ of 2021. The king of the world looks like he's about to pass out. Is that little claw in the back? Is that a back scratcher, or is that for you to pick up garbage? You don't have to bend over.
That's for the fish tank.
All right, I think it's for you to pick up garbage. Sealy McNeely, how you doing?
I'm good.
I know we're getting ever so closer and closer to your money sport in baseball. Well, obviously your money sport's football because you're the freaking king of the Westgate, but you're incredibly successful at baseball. And I just wanted you to give the peeps a chance to just let them know what you're working on to get ready for the season. Are you watching spring training games? Are you looking at batting splits? What's the key right now as you get ready for what we've talked about on this show going back to last year? A very important time of the season, the first month, where you have had an incredible amount of success. Last year, you barely lost whenever you pick games. What's the key for you right now as you get ready for the season and give your great people at sportshandicapper.com a lot of winners?
I've been watching some preseason games, just watching some pitchers. But
spring training, please, not preseason.
Whatever.
I'm just screwing with you.
All the same. The only problem is you really can't put too much in stock into the numbers in spring training because they work on things. Sometimes some guys just throw off fastballs. Sometimes they'll throw a ton of sliders, stuff they're working on for the regular season. So stuff like that, just see if their arms are healthy, if they're hitting, their velocities on the gun and stuff like that. But
do you think so? We I think it's important that we kind of, like I was doing with Jamie and I've done with Sideburns too, kind of go through the process you have, because this is why you've been successful for decades now. What do you think is the big advantage of being in a lot of early season games? Is it because the pitching isn't up to snuff yet? Is it because the batting's not up to snuff yet in certain situations? What are the big keys you're looking for as you get ready to start batting early in the season?
Well, they usually say the batters are a little behind the pitchers, and especially in short spring training, it's cut down by a week. You might see some offensive struggles early, especially with the rosters they expanded rosters from 26 to 28. So you're going to have every team's going to have probably a 15-man bullpen or 15 man pitching staff, which is
Right.
a lot of things, a lot of arms in the bullpen. So you might see some low scoring games early, I would think, especially if the weather's cold, which usually is in April. And it's not a great month to bet overs. So,
Not at all.
nope.
Another thing. Speaking of overzone, another thing I wanted to get your feelings on is the rule changes. Obviously, I know you like the DH, DH in both leagues. Anything else as far as the rule changes that are in place this year, and I know we're gonna have more next year, that could affect the way you bet certain games early in the season?
Well, I can't wait for the shift to be outlawed next year. I'm an anti-shift guy. I can't stand a bullet to the right side of the infield. That's just the guy.
It is pretty annoying.
In short right field. It looks like this day and age they play with a short fielder in softball. That's what it kind of looks like. And I just, as long as I think next year you're going to have at least two guys on one side, on each side of the diamond in the infield, which is, I like that rule a lot. It's almost positive it's going to be in effect for next year.
What about the runner on second base, which we thought was going to go away, and it's going to start again?
They're going to keep that this year. The bases are going to be bigger, I think, next year or this year. I think the space size is a little bigger. And I think it's something I read 2 days ago.
Second base?
Second base is coming in.
My dad was like, well, I hear that I guess second base wasn't in the right place and they're moving it. I'm like, all right, I guess they are.
Yeah, it's like it's really not 90 feet from base to base the way it was in the last 130 years.
Yes.
Supposedly, who knows? They can't change the rules enough.
That sounds like a seal rule change to me. It sounds like you wrote a letter to the commissioner to Manfred and what second base pulled in.
Camden Yards, I don't even think it's called Camden Yards anymore in Baltimore. They moved their left field fence in 26 feet this year.
I think it's called the Bird Den. Last one for you. I want to. What else is going on in the SEAL lab these days? I mean, we know you're getting ready for baseball. I know you hate the NBA right now because no one's playing and there's all this crap that you have to deal with, handicapping the NBA. But what else are you working on in the SEAL Mad Scientist Lab as we head towards the NBA playoffs? Obviously, I know you don't really deal with the NHL. Is there anything else you're looking at? Are you looking at any NFL stuff? Just as the draft's coming up, like where teams can maybe have some valuable futures action. Anything else going on in the Mad Scientist Lab?
In baseball, I bet a team, a Major League Baseball team's regular season win total under. I bet the Reds under 74.5. I think they're going to be terrible this year. I think they're going to trade anybody with a pulse. I think they might be competitive early on, but I think after the trade deadline through the end of the year, they're going to be terrible. Same thing with Oakland A's. I kind of missed the number on the Oakland A's.
The A's are purposely trying to be bad. There's 3-4 teams that are purposely trying to lose. They're tanking.
It's the Houston Astros method. That's what they did, when it worked.
It did work.
But Oakland does it every 5-6 years. You know that. Every 6 years, they unload everybody before they have to pay them and get draft picks. But all the draft
or like the Marlins, they win a World Series and get rid of 80% of their team.
Yeah. So I mean, that's the way they operate. Oakland. These other teams are doing it for the first time. They're going to be competitive. Oakland's in a tough division. I mean, Oakland's got Houston.
Right.
The Angels, I think, are really good this year, as long as Trout stays healthy. And Houston and Seattle's really much improved. So I don't know where their wins are going to come from. Oakland's going to be probably the worst team in the league this year. I don't know. Pittsburgh's pretty bad.
Well, speaking of worst teams, and this they're not going to be the worst team anymore. What do you think about my Detroit Tigers? I mean, I'll tell you this. I don't know if they're a playoff team, a wild card team this year, but with guys like Casey Mize and Torkelson and all these young arms and, young Jackson Jobe, the high school pitcher they just drafted in the first round, I think the Tigers, I know a lot of people around baseball are thinking they could be that surprise team this year. Are you buying that?
I am buying that. The problem is they're in a kind of a tough division.
Yeah.
The White Sox.
Well, the Twins just got Correa.
Twins are up. The Twins don't have much pitching. And honestly, Kansas City, I don't think they're that terrible. It's a kind of competitive division. But the White Sox should run away with it. But I agree with you. The Tigers are going to get better and better. And Riley Green, too.
Yeah, we got Riley. We got a lot of young. Matt Manning. We got a lot of things going on in Detroit. We have been a star fan base. Of course, we won the World Series in '84 and went to it in '06 and 2012. But we have not won a World Series, since the early '80s. And after the last, that decade of contention with Leland and the end of it with Ausmus, the last several years, especially through the pandemic, have been really lean, even at the end of Miguel Cabrera's career, who obviously had a much better year last year than 2 years ago in the pandemic year. This is a star fan base. So I think if the Tigers are even just in the race at some point this year, it's going to be bring a lot of people out to Comerica Park with obviously no mask mandates and capacity stuff these days. So it should be a lot of fun here in the Motor City. I'm hoping.
Yeah, it will be fun. It's a shame they can't get rid of Cabrera. How many more years does he have?
I think he's got 4 more years on his. I mean, what was it, a 15-year deal?
Is that all? Just 4 more? Yeah, he'll be fine. No.
Yeah, just keep him till he's 60. All right, Sealy, great job by you. Before we get out of here, let's get into some parting shots. We'll start with Sideburns, who's got it's much brighter today than normal in your vestibule studio, Sideburns.
Parting shots?
I like it. Yeah, parting shots for you. You get to go first.
Let's go Nova. Go Cats.
Hey,
Third Final Four in 6 tournaments and going for the 3rd championship in the last
It's almost
6
like they're the Michigan Wolverines. 2 title games in 8 years, but they didn't win any. You beat us once. All right, JB, parting shot for you, my friend.
No, I'll be working all weekend on getting the worksheet up for the Masters first thing on Monday morning. So if everybody wants to go out and check the site, we'll have the full worksheet with so many stuff and information and trends and statistics, all for the Masters. It's going to be a great week, and hopefully we'll see Tiger Woods there taking it up. It'll be nice.
Yep, it sure looks like I don't think he's got a chance to win it, but it sure looks like he's going to play the Tigers on there on Tuesday. So that should be a lot of fun. And Jamie, great stuff as always with your golf stuff. I cannot wait till we get ready for the Masters next week. That'll be a lot of fun, and your picks obviously will be up early in the week. Sealy McNeely, are you going to feed the fish? You have 2. I'm only allowing you 1.5.
No, just 2. Shout out to Bruce Willis. Sad news.
Yep.
Can't act anymore. Supposedly he did all the stunts himself, and that's maybe why he's a little banged
well,
up.
and he was getting a lot of lines fed to him with an earpiece for the last several years too on movie sets.
Yeah, I mean, supposedly a lot of blood. It's like a football player or a boxer. Unfortunately, he did too many stunts himself. And on a comedy level, funniest thing I ever saw. I think I laughed for 5 minutes straight. I'm not going to name the person who said this in California yesterday, but told a bunch of homeless people to go home.
And of course, we end with a political statement.
I've seen in years. Told everybody that was homeless to just go home. Shut up and go home.
All right, why don't you post the link for that on Sports Handicapper? All right, do that. I want people to see it. All right, great job by all you guys. My parting shot is this: be kind to each other and stop believing the Chris Rock, Will Smith thing was a bit. It wasn't a bit. But great job by all of you. For Sideburns, for JB, for Seal, please check out all great Seal's great picks and everyone's picks at sportshandicapper.com. We got the Final Four. We got the title game on Monday. The Masters for JB, baseball coming up for Seal. It should be a lot of fun, even though football's over. Still lots of things to get to. And this has been the Sports Edge, powered by sportshandicapper.com. Until next time, Dan Leach, the Squatch, saying keep reaching for the stars. Believe in the dream. We love you all. Peace, us.